It has been 10 years since I was forcibly bound by the system to enter the novel world and complete missions. Finally, I've been granted a chance to leave this world. Before I go, the system has given me 3 days, and during these 3 days, somehow, Laura and I have managed to get along peacefully. She asked me to move out of the house. I packed up and left immediately. She wanted to give Colin a piece of land worth 500 million yuan. I didn't hesitate to agree. Later, I even made a will, leaving everything I owned to my best friend. My friend questioned me about it. Laura looked utterly shocked. You made a will? For what reason? Because I'm going to die. Main text. See this? It's the land Laura transferred to me. I bet you didn't know about that. Huh? Colin waved the contract in his hand with pride, his gaze toward me full of mockery. My friend Joel couldn't hold back. That land is worth 500 million. It's part of the shared property between you and Laura. How could you just give it away? But before his words faded, the people around us burst into derisive laughter. Shared property? Please. He only got that money because he married Laura. You don't seriously think he has a claim to it, do you? Exactly. Everyone knows Laura's in love with Colin. This live-in husband is just a joke, still dreaming of Laura's fortune. Their words were harsh, cutting. Joel wanted to argue, but I grabbed his arm. Come on, let's go have a drink. I stopped him from saying more and walked away with him. Mocking voices followed us, but I didn't even flinch. What's wrong with you? Where's your pride? Joel demanded angrily. I shook my head. It was never really mine. I don't have the right to decide what to do with it. But that wasn't the truth. That piece of land was a gift from Laura a long time ago. I never accepted it, and she said she'd keep it for me. I didn't think much of it then. Now, it all makes things easier. I know she's always felt guilty toward Colin for not marrying him, so she's been trying every possible way to make it up to him. In the past, I would have confronted her, asking, why would you give something meant for me to someone else? Do I mean that little to you? But now, it's different. I'm about to leave this place and go home. None of this has anything to do with me anymore. I'm almost free. So when Laura brought it up, I nodded without hesitation. Sure, I know you must feel uncomfortable, but this land means a lot to Colin. You should be mature about. Wait, what did you say? I can still remember the surprise on her face. I chuckled softly. I said, sure. She looked stunned, but I had already lain down, ready to sleep. Since she's fallen for another man and thinks I could never measure up to Colin, then I won't compete anymore. I don't even want her, so why would I care about the land? Colin flaunted it in front of me just to provoke me, to make me question Laura, to stir up chaos so she'd hate me even more. That way, he could swoop in to comfort the furious Laura, letting everyone see how special he was. So everyone would believe that he, not me, was the one truly meant for her. And when Laura heard about what happened, she didn't scold him for showing off. Instead, she rushed over to back him up. By doing that, she tore off the last shred of dignity I had left as her husband, and crushed it under her heel. My friend was so furious that he almost charged forward to hit someone, but I quietly began packing up my things instead. Everything I had ever used or owned, I planned to get rid of. None of it could be taken back with me, and leaving it behind would only become a burden. Better to deal with it early. Just thinking about my parents and my adorable little sister waiting for me back home made me want to sprout wings and fly there right away. Thankfully, all of this would soon be over. Laura and I hadn't had a meal together in 3 years. Today, surprisingly, she sent someone to pick me up and invited me to dinner. But the moment I arrived, she couldn't wait to pull out a pendant. It was a necklace of small blue gemstones, designed delicately, like an exploding firework. It shimmered beautifully. I could tell it was a fine piece. The gemstones were of excellent quality, though a bit small. Still, I recognized it instantly. It was the latest design by the jeweler Mickey. There were 2 versions. One was a bracelet made entirely of blue gems, showing Mickey's distinctive style. The other, this necklace, was crafted from leftover materials. Though stylish, it was merely a complimentary gift that came with the bracelet. If I wasn't mistaken, that bracelet must already be in Colin's hands. I couldn't help but laugh. She wasn't even pretending anymore. Did she really think I didn't know anything? Perhaps she forgot. Mickey is my friend. I laughed out of sheer disbelief, but she mistook it for joy and gently placed the necklace around my neck. I didn't resist, and her smile grew even brighter. Oscar, I came today because I wanted to discuss something with you. Her eyes were fixed on me, sparkling with intensity. I frowned slightly but said nothing. She went on, could you move out for a while? Colin's parents are coming to visit. When she said that, I suddenly remembered. Colin had lied to his parents, telling them he was already married. Only later did he admit the truth to Laura, and instead of getting angry, she agreed to help him continue the lie. Of course she did. It fulfilled her wish of being married to Colin, even if only through deception. In the past, I would have been furious, but now that I'm about to leave, I don't even want this woman anymore, so why would I care about moving out? Looking into her slightly guilty eyes, I nodded. Sure. When should I move? Laura stared at me in surprise. She hadn't expected me to agree so easily. Oscar, you're not angry? I chuckled and shook my head. See, she knew I'd be angry, yet she still said it anyway. That only proved that my feelings no longer mattered to her. In the past, I'd quarreled with her countless times over things like this, and every time, she'd look at me with those disappointed eyes, as if I'd committed an unforgivable sin. For her, me not refusing was already a good attitude. She could never have imagined that one day, I would agree, completely, calmly, and without resistance. You really agreed? Laura spoke again. Before I could answer, Colin rushed in, looking both anxious and excited. Oscar, thank you so much. I really didn't expect my parents to come all of a sudden. He looked at me with what seemed like gratitude, but Laura's gaze never left him, her eyes soft, her smile tender, as though he were her entire world. She didn't even spare me half a glance. I told you to wait for me outside, didn't I? She said, her tone light, almost teasing. Colin scratched his head with a shy grin. I just thought, it's been so long since I've seen Oscar. I wanted to come say hi, and besides, this request is a bit much. If you two started arguing, I'd be here to protect you right away. As he spoke, he reached for Laura's hand. The two of them looked deeply into each other's eyes, oblivious to everything around them. Laura leaned into his embrace, obedient and gentle. Don't worry about me. How could I not? Colin wrapped his arms around her protectively, but when his eyes met mine, they were filled with smugness and mockery. He had come here on purpose, to show me how affectionate they were, to remind me that I was nothing but an outsider now. He wanted to provoke me, to make me argue with Laura again, to push her even farther away. I almost laughed out loud. He didn't need to bother. I was already letting her go, because I wanted nothing from this world anymore. When I first arrived here, my only mission was to become Laura's husband, to prevent her from ending up with Colin. At the time, I didn't understand why the system specifically targeted him, but now, I do. Colin is the kind of man who will use any means necessary to get what he wants. I once saw him slip something of his own into someone else's bag, only to accuse them of stealing. If that person hadn't insisted on calling the police, Colin would have smoothed things over and walked away clean. Anyone weaker would have been crushed under his false accusations, branded a thief for life. If someone like him were to gain money and power by being with this world's heroine, he'd turn everything upside down. The whole world would be destroyed. It took me years, and no small amount of effort, to finally marry Laura. Her identity is special, so she couldn't just marry or divorce freely. Her marriage had to remain stable, or her company would suffer. Her grandfather liked me too, so he would never have allowed her to divorce. But the most important thing was that, when Laura and I got married, she truly loved me. She even stood in front of the media and declared that she would never divorce, that I was the only one for her in this lifetime. Back then, I thought I'd found something real. I thought I was the happiest man in the world. So when the system told me my mission was complete, I didn't leave right away. I chose to stay. I never expected that two people who once loved each other so deeply could grow to hate the sight of one another. It all happened so quickly, before I even realized it. Her eyes were already filled with Colin, and I had become nothing but the unwanted extra in their story. Pulling myself out of my thoughts, I packed my belongings and checked into a hotel. I wasn't planning to stay long anyway, no need to rent another place. I threw away the things I didn't need, and donated all the valuable ones to an auction. After they were sold, the proceeds would be donated to people in need. I had just lain down when my phone rang. It was Laura. Her voice sounded hesitant, as though she couldn't decide whether to speak. If it's nothing urgent, I'm going to sleep, I said calmly. I just wanted to spend this last day in peace, and then disappear quietly. But apparently, my tone didn't sit well with her. Her voice grew cold. Oscar, what kind of attitude is that? You're just a live-in husband. Do you even understand your place? Her words stabbed straight into my chest. I wanted to marry her, but she'd said her family needed an heir. So I agreed to become the live-in husband. Back then, I thought, as long as I can marry her, that's enough. But now, somehow, I'd become the ungrateful one. Of course I understand, I replied, forcing my voice to stay steady. What exactly do you want me to do? Sensing that she had the upper hand, Laura spoke sharply, as if issuing an order. In that case, come over and be a housekeeper for a few days. When Colin's parents leave, then you can rest. For a moment, my head went blank. I'd imagined many reasons she might call me, but never this. She wanted me to serve Colin's parents. Laura, do you even hear yourself right now? I clenched my teeth, forcing the words out, but she only let out a cold laugh. What's wrong? Will working as a housekeeper kill you? Fine, I'll pay you 200,000 yuan. Is that enough? No. Then 500,000. It's only for 2 days. Don't push your luck. Her tone turned sharp, like a knife, clean and merciless, and my heart felt like it was being carved open by a dull, rusted blade, tearing, scraping. until all that was left was pain. Forget it, I said hoarsely. I'll go. So I returned to the villa, not as a husband, but as a servant. Once I'd finished tidying up the last of my things, I quietly took my place beside the dining table, standing there as Laura and Colin's family enjoyed their meal. Today was the day I would leave this world. I just wanted to get through it quietly, then return to my family, to my real home. I told myself, this was all just a dream. I took a deep breath, forcing my emotions down. Then, smack! A burning pain spread across my cheek. Instinctively, I raised a hand to my face, staring in disbelief at the old woman before me. It was Colin's mother. Her expression was one of pure disgust. So this is the standard of housekeepers in big cities. There's a hair in my soup. I glanced at her bowl. Indeed, there was a hair floating in it, but it wasn't mine. My hair was straight and black. This one was light brown and curly. It was Colin's. Just as I was about to speak, Laura's voice cut through the air. How can you mess up something so simple? You even let hair fall into the soup. Colin followed up right away, his tone full of false righteousness. I know you think I'm not good enough for Laura. If you've got a problem, take it out on me, but how dare you disgust my parents like this? They don't visit often. How could you? Laura's anger boiled over. I really thought you'd improved lately, but clearly, you're still the same. Apologize. Her eyes locked on me, overflowing with disappointment. I couldn't help but laugh, bitterly, helplessly. From the start until now, did you even look at the hair? Do you even know what happened before you judge me? She froze for a moment, then her tone sharpened like a blade. So now you're trying to blame me? That's your attitude? Have I been too lenient with you all this time? Is that why you've become so arrogant? How dare you talk back at a moment like this? You've truly disappointed me, Oscar. Laura's expression was cold, distant. Go take your punishment yourself. At her house, even servants had to follow strict family rules. Mistakes meant punishment. And at this moment, she looked at me with nothing but disgust. My heart clenched painfully. So you really do see me as just a servant now? But tell me, Laura, who should really be the disappointed one here? I stared at her calmly, my tone eerily relaxed, because by now, I was done. Completely, utterly done. Laura, I said quietly. Anyone with eyes could tell whose hair that is. But you didn't even try. You only saw what you wanted to see. You've become absurd. No morals, no limits, and worst of all, no mind of your own. But it doesn't matter anymore, because there's no reason for us to argue about right or wrong anymore. From this moment on, we have nothing to do with each other. You and I, even in life or death, will never meet again. Everything I had buried in my heart finally spilled out. Laura stared at me, stunned, as if she couldn't comprehend what she had just heard. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Then I reached for the fruit knife on the coffee table, and before anyone could react, I dragged the blade across my throat. Warm blood gushed out. My body hit the ground hard. Darkness swallowed everything. System alert. Host in mortal danger. Forced disconnection initiated. Laura's face was splattered with blood. My blood. She blinked blankly, disbelief clouding her eyes as she stared at the body on the floor. Oscar, stop joking around. This isn't funny. Her legs gave way as she crawled toward me. Trembling, she pressed her hand under my nose. No breath. Her eyes widened in terror, and she fell back with a scream. No, Oscar, you can't be dead. Get up. You promised me. You said you'd always stay by my side. What are you doing now? Laura shook my lifeless body, over and over, tears streaming down her face. The room was silent. No one dared to speak. Even Colin's parents looked terrified, desperate to turn away, but too afraid to move. They could only stand there, watching as Laura clung to my corpse, refusing to let go. It wasn't until the very end that Colin, trembling all over, finally shuffled to Laura's side. He gently patted her shoulder. Laura. Oscar. He's dead. No, impossible. Laura violently shoved his hand away, glaring at him with fury. Oscar loved me so much. How could he ever leave me? He said he would never abandon me. To be fair, she was right. I once said I would never leave her, even when she was a poor college student, cast out by her family and living under restrictions. I stayed by her side, supporting her through everything, to provide for us both. I worked 3 different jobs at once, sleeping barely 3 or 4 hours a night. Every day, she would tidy up the house and wait for me so we could have dinner together. Under the dim, yellow light, we would hold each other close. She'd whisper, Oscar, I'll take back everything that belongs to me. I'll repay you 1,000 times over. I'll never let you work this hard again. Though exhaustion burned through me, every muscle aching and screaming, I still smiled, pulling her into my arms. My Laura is so capable, you'll definitely make it happen. I was the one who walked beside her for 12 long years. In those 12 years, we fell, we fought, we struggled, and finally, we rose to the top together, and our love only grew stronger, unbreakable. But now, I lie in her arms, my blood soaking through her clothes. Memories flood her mind, and her tears fall uncontrollably, rolling down her cheeks and landing softly on my face. Colin, who had just been excited about my death, thinking he could now have Laura all to himself, never imagined that she would lose herself in grief because of me. My daughter-in-law, what are you doing? Colin's mother scolded sharply. You and my son Colin are husband and wife. How could you cling to another man like that? Colin's mother, of course, instinctively believed Laura had betrayed her son, but Laura, still lost in sorrow, slowly lifted her head, and saw Oscar's mother standing there. It's you. This is all your fault. Her eyes were bloodshot as she glared at the older woman. Colin's mother froze, her expression twisting in anger. What nonsense are you spouting? I didn't kill anyone. It was your family that insisted on moving in. You're the one who accused Oscar, over a single hair. And that hair was your son's. Her gaze swept coldly across the few people before her. Colin's mother recoiled, terrified by Laura's blood-stained, feral appearance. Colin's father quickly stepped in front of his wife. Didn't you just side with us earlier? Dad. Colin interrupted sharply, stopping him. You two should go clean up and get some rest first. After a reluctant pause, his parents left. Colin then crouched in front of Laura. Oscar's gone. Let him rest in peace. Colin, Laura's voice was eerily calm. That hair, it was yours, wasn't it? Her eyes locked onto him with a quiet madness that made Colin's heart seize in terror. At the same time, in another world, I clutched my neck and screamed as I jolted upright. Before my eyes was a scene both familiar and strange. I hadn't been back here for over a decade, yet everything was still spotless, immaculate as ever. Even the books on the desk looked exactly the same as they used to. I stared at the mirror in disbelief. I'm back. Didn't I tell you to go to bed early? You stayed up all night again, and now you're screaming like a banshee. My mother walked in, holding a cup of warm milk. With the same gentle familiarity, she set it down on the table. Drink it. I didn't even touch the milk. I rushed forward and threw my arms around her. Mom, I missed you so much. I truly, deeply missed my family. It had been 12 long years, 12 years struggling alone in another world. I had endured endless hardship, only to meet such a tragic end. But now, things were different. I was back where I belonged, back with my family. You little rascal, my mom scolded, smiling. You're all sweaty. Go take a shower, you still have to visit your sister at the hospital. Her voice was so vivid, so real, that I knew this wasn't a dream. My sister had been born with a congenital heart defect. She needed expensive treatment. Fortunately, our family wasn't completely broke. We could still afford her medical bills, but without a matching donor, her condition would eventually become irreversible. Thankfully, I realized that while I'd spent 12 years in that other world, barely a few days had passed here. Using everything I had learned over there, I could make money, lots of it, and find a way to get her the heart she needed. To help my sister recover, I threw myself into stock trading and entrepreneurship, moving with fierce determination. I never forgot to visit her in the hospital from time to time, keeping her company, reminding her she wasn't alone. Within a month, I had started to forget the events of that other world, letting them fade quietly into memory. But I never expected to be pulled back into the system's dimension once again. Why am I here again? I already completed my mission. System, I want to go back. I was about to break down. I didn't want to leave my family, not for some absurd cosmic plot. I just wanted a peaceful, ordinary life. Apologies, host, for disturbing you. Since your departure, Laura has refused to bury you. She sealed your body inside a crystal coffin and stays by your side every single day. The storyline has been disrupted. The entire world is beginning to collapse. Thus, this system has no choice but to summon you back to repair the narrative. Hearing the system's words, I shook my head furiously. I don't want to. I just want to stay quietly with my family. That glittering, chaotic world was never meant for me. More importantly, Laura held far too much power now. If I returned, I would be the prey, and she the hunter. If I refuse to fix the story, does that mean I'll have to stay trapped here forever? I didn't want to see Laura again. I didn't want to return at all. If you successfully repair the world, this system will reward you with unlimited wealth, and cure your sister's illness completely. I was ready to reject it, but those last words silenced me. I pictured my sister's innocent face, those eyes full of fragile hope and yearning for freedom. Taking a deep breath, I finally nodded slowly. All right, it's a deal. The moment I finished speaking, a blinding white light flashed before my eyes. When I opened them again, the world seemed hazy, everything blurred and indistinct, as if I were peering through fog. I forced myself to stand, only to bump my head against something hard. Oscar, you're back. Clang. The mist vanished instantly, and Laura's face appeared right in front of me. I instinctively stepped back, my body trembling in fear. Laura, why won't you let me go? Looking at her, My heart sank heavily. She looked so thin now. Her hair a tangled mess. Her clothes wrinkled and disheveled. There was nothing left of the elegant, polished Laura I once knew. How could she, the woman who once cared about every strand of her hair, turn into this? I was stunned. She must have sensed something was wrong too, because she quickly panicked and brushed her messy hair behind her ears. Oscar, I always knew you wouldn't really leave me. That's why I didn't bother taking care of myself. I'll go clean up right now. I'll make myself look just like before. Her nervous, flustered expression reminded me of the first time I met her. Back then, she looked even more miserable than now, worn down and desperate, but her eyes had been clear and pure, enough to make anyone want to protect her. Laura, I said quietly, your heart belongs to Colin, so why won't you let me rest in peace? My words seemed to ease the tension in her frown. Without answering, she pulled me out of the crystal coffin, her grip firm and desperate, and dragged me toward one of the villa's rooms. I know, she said breathlessly. I know you left me because you were angry with him. I know it was all his fault. It's okay. You'll stop being angry soon. You'll see just how much I love you. Her hand clenched mine so tightly it hurt, as if she feared I'd vanish again at any moment. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Love? Whatever love we had was long destroyed the moment Colin appeared. Her words sounded absurd now, almost like a cruel joke between the two of them. I pushed open the next door, and my blood ran cold. Colin was inside, locked in a cage. The room was dark, and he was curled up in a corner like a trapped beast. The moment he saw me, he began to shriek, an unearthly sound, and lunged against the bars, desperate to tear through them, to claw my face apart. But Laura simply kicked the cage, and with one sharp clang, he went completely silent. He crouched obediently in the shadows again, but his eyes still burned into me with hatred, and when I looked closer, I froze. His tongue had been cut out. No wonder Colin hadn't said a word earlier. He couldn't. I frowned deeply. Despite everything, I didn't hate him all that much. He had fallen for Laura. It was natural that he'd do whatever it took to get close to her. But it was Laura who had failed to guard her own heart. That was why things had turned out this way. If not for her, Colin wouldn't have grown so arrogant, so reckless. When she loved him, she gave him everything he wanted. But when she stopped loving him, he was nothing. Less than nothing. Even a dog's worth depended on her mood. I had already witnessed how ruthless she could be, and though I felt no pity for her anymore, I couldn't help but sigh at Colin's fate. Seeing my expression, Laura tugged on my arm and turned me away. Don't look at him, she said coldly. He's too ugly. She dragged me into the living room, pushed me down onto the couch, and handed me a document. Sign it, she said flatly. I frowned. The moment I glanced at the paper, my face froze in disbelief. It was a share transfer agreement. She wanted to give me all her company shares, but I had zero interest in any of that. This was nothing but another one of her tricks to keep me trapped by her side. Once the shares were under my name, I'd become the target of everyone's resentment, hunted, pressured, and hated. Laura, I said, my voice cold. I'm not Colin. I don't care about your money. I don't want any of this. Just let me go. But she clutched my hand tightly, her grip trembling with obsession. Go? Where could you possibly go? Are you planning to leave me again? I won't let you go. We're meant to be together, forever. We'll have children. We'll build a happy family together. No. I didn't want that kind of happy family with her. I already had a family, my parents and my little sister. They truly loved me. That was what happiness meant. Here, there was nothing but fear and suffocating loneliness. I would never stay here. Never. When she saw I didn't reply, she mistook my silence for acceptance. Laura reached out to grab my hand again, but I pulled away sharply. Undeterred, she caught my wrist once more, her voice shaking. I know you're still mad at me, but I'll prove my love for you with everything I have. I'll give you everything you like, everything you want. Just forgive me, please. Don't be angry with me anymore. Okay. Everything I like. She still didn't understand. She never had. The food, the drinks, the gifts, they were all things I had chosen for her, not for myself. She never once cared to learn what I liked. As for money, I'd already left all of mine to my best friend before I came back. I couldn't take it with me anyway. It was just a number, nothing more. The only reason I returned this time was to save my sister's life. Forgive you, I said, my voice like ice. No, I will never forgive you. I threw the pen onto the table and turned toward the bedroom without looking back. I didn't want to see her face anymore. I didn't even want to breathe the same air. But instead of leaving, she followed me to the doorway. I know you're still angry, she said quickly, but that's okay. We'll be fine soon. I promise. You're only upset because of Colin, but I swear, my heart belongs only to you. When I give birth to our child, everything will be perfect again. Her words made my blood run cold. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her to get out. She was completely insane. Ever since I came back from the dead, she had me under constant surveillance. She had every sharp object removed from the house, terrified I'd try something. She followed me everywhere, glued to my side every waking moment. She kept showering me with gifts, houses, cars, everything she owned, transferring them all into my name as if money could buy my love, but all it did was draw suspicion. The company's shareholders were furious. "This is a board meeting." One of them snapped. "Why did you bring him here? What if confidential information gets leaked?" "That's right. Just because you're married doesn't mean this is a family business. Not everyone belongs in here. If you keep this up, we'll pull out our shares." Laura swept her cold gaze across the room. "You want to withdraw your shares?" she asked, her tone icy. "Go ahead, if you can bear to, but if you can't, then get on your knees and apologize to my Oscar." The entire boardroom fell silent. Everyone was stunned. The man she had just humiliated was one of the company's earliest investors, someone who had been there since the very beginning. If he pulled out now, the consequences would be catastrophic. Even I hadn't expected her to say something so outrageous. "What are you doing? Have you completely lost your mind?" I hissed. Before I could say another word, Laura clutched my hand tightly, her expression hardening. "Baby, don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one will ever insult you again." Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass, and the way she looked down on everyone made her enemies in an instant. Though I refused her demand that the shareholders apologize to me, trying to smooth things over temporarily, it didn't change anything. They still couldn't stand me. They believed that my presence was a threat to the company's future, and more than that, they could no longer recognize her. The woman standing before them was not the calm, brilliant leader they once followed. So, they united together. They formally demanded that Laura remove me from the company, and they opposed the transfer of her shares to me. But the more they opposed her, the more she fought back. She began buying out their shares, one by one, using ruthless tactics to force them into submission. A few who resisted were framed and destroyed, and when someone tried to challenge her again, she threatened coldly, "If anyone dares stop me again, I'll make sure they lose everything." After that, no one dared to speak another word. I never accepted the shares, but that didn't stop her from parading me around everywhere, to banquets, business meetings, and public events, as if she were announcing to the world, "This man is mine. No one is allowed to touch him." At an auction, she even lit up the headlines by bidding an outrageous price for a diamond bracelet, just to give it to me. The media exploded with reports, and perhaps because I stayed by her side quietly, she seemed calmer for a while, as if she had found a fragile sense of peace again. For a brief moment, she almost looked like the woman I once loved, but whenever something involved me, that old madness would flare up again, possessive, suffocating, and absolute. Soon after, she landed a massive collaboration, a deal that could elevate her company into the industry's top tier. She threw herself into the preparations, working tirelessly. Yet, even then, she never missed a single meal with me. That night, she sat by my side, peeling shrimp with delicate fingers, gently placing them into my bowl. I frowned, discomfort twisting in my chest. "How long are you going to keep this up?" She didn't respond, as though she hadn't heard me. "Here," she said softly. I took out all the fish bones. "Laura," I said, staring at her, "have you forgotten? This place, it was supposed to be where our child lived." I pointed to her abdomen. Her face went pale in an instant. Of course she hadn't forgotten. Back then, our relationship had been perfect. The company was thriving. Everything seemed to align: time, fate, and love. And in her belly, there had been a small life, quietly growing, until she met Colin. Her heart wavered. She started spending time with him, walking his dog, laughing in the sunlight. And one day, that dog yanked too hard on the leash. She fell, and with that fall, our child was gone forever. Back then, she hadn't cared, or rather, she had thought losing that child was a good thing. Without the baby, nothing would stand between her and Colin. But now, she regretted it more than anything. "I know," Laura said softly, tears welling in her eyes. "It was my fault. I was careless. But if you're willing, if you'll forgive me, I can give you another child right now." She reached out to grab my hand, but I stepped back and shook my head. "No, I don't want that." She froze, her breath caught, her hand hanging awkwardly in the air. At that moment, her assistant burst into the room, pale and panicked. "Boss, bad news. The collaboration, it's fake. The other party was a shell company. As soon as the funds were transferred, they disappeared." His words drained the color from Laura's face. She turned to look at me, her expression unreadable, before saying quietly, "It's fine. I still have the most precious thing in the world." She was talking about me. I let out a soft laugh and stood up, walking toward the edge of the rooftop. "What are you doing?" Laura's voice shook as she stepped forward, panic spreading across her face. "Oscar, come back here. It's just money. We can earn it back. Everything will be fine again." "I did it once," she said desperately. "I can do it again." When I didn't respond, she edged closer, her tone breaking with fear. "Oscar, don't be impulsive. I'll make sure you have everything you want. I promise. If you die, if you dare die, I'll kill Joel." Her scream echoed against the rooftop walls. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I reached out a hand toward her. Relief flooded her features as she rushed forward, gripping my hand tightly. I looked at her and smiled faintly. So it really comes down to this, doesn't it? What do you mean? Before she could react, I pulled her sharply toward me, and together, we fell. The world spun violently around us. The wind howled past my ears. In freefall, I let go of her hand. Laura reached for me, fighting against the air, her face twisted in panic, but no matter how she struggled, she could never quite reach me. A sharp pain tore through my body, and then, nothing. Darkness swallowed everything. When I opened my eyes again, a familiar voice spoke softly in my mind. Congratulations, host. Mission complete. Returning to the real world. Rewards have been issued. Please collect them at your convenience. I blinked. Then I heard my mother's voice, warm, trembling, full of concern. How are you feeling now? She asked. I understand you're worried about your sister, but she's already in surgery. What would we do if something happened to you too? Her words confused me for a moment, but she kept talking gently. You can't keep pushing yourself like this. If your sister wakes up and doesn't see you there, she'll be heartbroken. I nodded slowly, realizing what had happened. I had collapsed while taking care of my sister. Tears blurred my vision as I wrapped my arms tightly around my mother. Don't worry, Mom, I whispered. I'm okay now. The surgery was a success. My sister survived. And finally, after all those years of pain, loss, and madness, our family was whole again. We were together, peaceful, happy,